Well, good evening, this is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening, and I just thought to give you a quick update on my Human Rights Tribunal claim against a person who refused me service because of a mask issue. And so I have received my first response back from the Human Rights Tribunal, and this is what it said. Okay, so this is the letter. Dear Steve Clark, please see attached the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario's HRTO Notice of Intent to Dismiss, dated September 21st, 2021, for your perusal and necessary action. Action spelled wrongly, and that's from the Office of the Registrar. Okay, so this is a pretty standard response from these kind of organisations, and it's amazing that a response like that will actually put off around about 30% of the claimants because they just assume, oh well, it's been dismissed, my case doesn't have any validity, and so what's the point of going forward, or it's just too much. And so there's a couple of thoughts behind this. Firstly, like I say, that this is always their first response, and unless it is so cut and dried and egregious that it just goes ahead. But in these kind of cases, yes, they will try and put you off at the very first step of the game, and it is surprisingly successful. Now, I can also understand and appreciate that there are all kinds of crackpots making all kinds of crackpot claims to the Human Rights Tribunal, and when you get a response like this, the first thing it should make you do is go back over your claim. Well, first of all, read what they have to say. There was some notes in there, and they basically tried to say that it was out of their jurisdiction, and they gave me some case law which they felt had basically covered their case, but in fact actually gave me credence for my case to move forward. So anyways, this is the bit of case law that was in the reference within their letter, and I'll just read that off to you. And here's a little bit of case law right here that goes actually in my favour. Although the tribunal dismissed the application against the various politicians and government bodies at the preliminary hearing stages that it did not have jurisdiction over such general allegations of unfairness, the tribunal allowed the application against the Toronto District School Board to proceed to a hearing on the merits, stating, however, the substance of KL's concerns that fall within the tribunal's jurisdiction relate to the application of the masks in school requirement to his child, CL. In this regard, KL effectively alleges that CL has a disability that requires an exemption from this requirement, that he wear a mask at the school. This falls within the tribunal's jurisdiction. Therefore, CL, as represented by his litigation guardian, KL's application against the Toronto District School Board alleging discrimination in services because of a disability will continue in the tribunal's process. As such, the tribunal will have the opportunity to determine whether the mandatory masking rule adopted by the Toronto District School Board discriminated against CL on the basis of his or her disability at a hearing on the merits. So there you go. It was alleged that there was a medical disability, and the claim went forward, and it was within the jurisdiction of the Human Rights Tribunal. Now, I will admit, when you first get these letters, that bottom lip wants to come out. It starts to quiver, and you feel daunted. You feel daunted, but don't let these things get on top of you. Let's say, go through your claim. What I did with my claim was I presented it to several friends of mine to see whether there was some, kind of flaw, or whether there was some issues with it, or whether I was completely off base. And so, run this past a few people, because if you don't have a case, there's just no point in going forward, because you're going to get chewed up at the tribunal. So this is a wonderful opportunity to go through what you have, to try it out on some friends who you trust and who can think pretty clearly, and then you can see where the flaws are, put your rebuttal together and send that off back to the tribunal. And now I'm just going to wait and see what their response is to that. And just because I seem to think that I have a good case doesn't mean to say that I'm going to win the case at the tribunal. It just means that I am confident in what I put together and that I can present it in such a way which has credence. And so we will wait for the next response to come back and we will move on from there. But this is an idea of what you're going to go through. It's certainly a bunch of hoops. This happens, doesn't matter what you get into. Workman's compensation is going to do the same thing. If you go to civil court, you're going to find the same kind of hoop jumping that you have to go through to get your claim actually in front of a tribunal. And it is time consuming, it usually involves paperwork, and it usually always involves some research on your part. So my rebuttal included all of the links, all of the websites, all of the pages. That's why I was glad I got an email from these people, so I actually had a person, a direct contact with someone to send this off to, so they can actually see what I have in my possession and whether it has any validity. So, as I say, it's just a quick update of what's going on, and I will keep you posted as we go forward. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Take care. Bye.